Hana pressed deeper into the shadows of the abandoned temple, one hand on her 3-month pregnant belly, the other clutching the dagger she barely knew how to use. Outside, she could hear them, vampire soldiers from the king's guard searching the human district. And on the other side of the temple, human hunters with blessed silver, looking for the contaminated woman carrying vampire corruption. Both groups wanted her dead. Both groups would kill her child without hesitation. And somewhere in the city, Daichi, the vampire prince who'd promised to protect her, the father of her baby, was either dead or captured. She was alone. Pregnant. And the most hunted woman in 2 worlds. Before we dive into the story of a woman who became hunted by 2 entire worlds for the crime of loving the wrong men and carrying the wrong child, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel brings you stories where love becomes treason, where pregnancy becomes a death sentence, and where sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is survive when everyone wants you dead. Now, let's discover how one woman went from translator to the most hunted person in 2 realms. Clapperboard Chapter 1, The Forbidden Affair. 3 months earlier. Hana had been hired as a translator for one reason: she was fluent in both the classical human dialects and the ancient vampire tongue that the northern court still used for formal occasions. The trade negotiations were supposed to take 2 weeks. Hana was supposed to facilitate communication, collect her payment, and return to her quiet life as a scholar's assistant in the human capital. She was not supposed to fall in love with Prince Daichi. "You're doing it again," Daichi said during their 3rd evening working together, his dark eyes amused as he watched her from across the negotiation table after the diplomats had left. "Doing what, Your Highness?" Hana asked, carefully organizing her translation notes. "Pretending you don't feel the pull between us." He stood, moving with that liquid vampire grace that still made her breath catch. "Pretending you don't look at me when you think I'm not watching. Pretending your heart doesn't race every time I'm near." "That's fear, Your Highness," Hana said, not meeting his eyes. "You're a vampire. I'm human. My heart is supposed to race when predators are close. I'm not your predator, Hana." He was suddenly beside her, impossibly fast, impossibly close. "I'm just a man who finds you fascinating. Who wants to know why a brilliant translator is working as an assistant instead of heading a university. Who wants to understand why you flinch every time someone raises their voice. Who wants you to stop," Hana interrupted, finally meeting his gaze. "Your Highness, you're the king's brother. Second in line to the vampire throne. I'm a common human with no family, no status, no value beyond my language skills. Whatever you think you feel." "I think I'm falling in love with you," Daichi said simply. "I think I have been since the moment you corrected my pronunciation of a 3,000-year-old treaty clause and didn't apologize for making a prince look foolish. I think you're brilliant and brave and absolutely terrified of being either of those things. And I think you feel the same way about me, but you're too practical to admit it." Hana should have laughed. Should have walked away. Should have remembered every rule about humans and vampires, about princes and commoners, about the impossible gulf between their worlds. Instead, she kissed him. And he kissed her back like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. The affair continued in secret for 2 months. Stolen moments between negotiation sessions. Late-night meetings in the palace gardens where no one would think to look. Careful, desperate hours where they could pretend the rest of the world didn't exist. Daichi told her about growing up as the spare heir, always second, always expendable, trained to support his brother King Hiroshi but never to expect power of his own. Hana told him about her childhood in an orphanage, about fighting for every scrap of education, about being brilliant in a world that didn't value brilliant women, about the scars on her back from a headmaster who believed in correcting stubborn girls. They were both unwanted in their own ways. Both overlooked. Both trying to find value in worlds that had defined them as less. "Come with me," Daichi said one night, holding her in the moonlit garden. "When the negotiations end. Come back to the northern court with me. Not as a translator. As mine." "Your what?" Hana asked, though her heart knew what he meant. "My companion. My love. Eventually, if you'd accept it, my mate." His hand cupped her face. "I know it's complicated. I know my brother would have objections. I know your world would call you a traitor. But Hana, I've lived 300 years and never felt this. Never wanted someone the way I want you. Never needed someone to stay the way I need you to stay. Daichi. Think about it, he interrupted gently. The negotiations end in 3 days. You'll return to the human capital. I'll return to the vampire court. And we'll spend the rest of our lives wondering what might have happened if one of us had been brave enough to try. Hana knew he was right. Knew that walking away would haunt her forever. So she said yes. She said yes to a vampire prince, to an impossible future, to a love that had no place in either of their worlds. She said yes, not knowing she was already pregnant. She discovered the pregnancy 2 weeks after arriving at the northern vampire court. The court physician, a stern woman named Dr. Keiko, had examined her during a routine check, required for all new humans residing in the vampire court, and gone very, very still. How long have you been intimate with Prince Daichi? Dr. Keiko asked carefully. That's not. I don't, Hana stammered. You're pregnant, Dr. Keiko said bluntly. Approximately 6 weeks. The child is half vampire, which means the pregnancy will progress faster than normal human gestation. You'll be showing within a month. Delivering within 6 months. And Miss Hana. The physician's expression turned grave. This is politically catastrophic. Why? Hana whispered, one hand instinctively going to her still flat stomach. Because Prince Daichi is second in line to the throne. Because any child he fathers could potentially challenge King Hiroshi's heirs. Because you're human, or at least, everyone believes you are, which makes this child's legitimacy questionable. Because. The door burst open. Daichi entered, his expression wild. Tell me it's not true. Tell me the rumor I just heard in the halls isn't. He stopped, seeing Hana's face. It's true. I didn't know, Hana said quickly. I swear, I didn't plan this. I didn't mean to trap you or trap me. Daichi crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms. Hana, I don't care about politics or succession or any of it. You're carrying our child. Our child. That's. His voice cracked with emotion. That's everything. Your Highness, Dr. Keiko said urgently. You need to understand the danger. The king will see this as a threat. The court factions will want to either control the child or eliminate it. The human world will view Miss Hana as a traitor. You need to protect her. Now. Before word spreads beyond this room. What are you suggesting? Daichi asked. That you run, Dr. Keiko said bluntly. Both of you. Tonight. Before the king can issue a decree, before the court can mobilize, before the human fanatics can organize. Because Miss Hana just became the most valuable and most endangered person in the world. I won't run from my brother, Daichi said. I'll talk to him. Explain the situation. Ask for his protection. The king exiled his last lover for the crime of being too popular with the court, Dr. Keiko interrupted. Do you truly believe he'll be merciful to a woman carrying his brother's child? A child that could complicate his own heir's succession. Your Highness, I respect your loyalty to your brother. But that loyalty may get Miss Hana killed. Hana felt her world tilt. 2 hours ago, she'd been happy. Adjusting to vampire court life, planning a future with Daichi, dreaming of possibilities. Now she was carrying a political bomb that everyone would want to eliminate. I'll go to the king myself, Hana said quietly. Explain that I pose no threat. That the baby will be raised quietly, without claims to succession. That. Do you truly believe that will satisfy him? Dr. Keiko asked gently. Miss Hana, you don't understand vampire politics. Your child's mere existence is a threat, regardless of your intentions. The moment King Hiroshi knows about this pregnancy, you become a problem to be solved. And the king's solutions are rarely gentle. Daichi's arms tightened around Hana protectively. Then we run. Tonight. I'll take her somewhere safe, somewhere beyond my brother's immediate reach, and we'll figure out the rest from there. Where? Hana asked desperately. Where can we go so that both worlds won't hunt us? I don't know yet, Daichi admitted. But I'll find somewhere. I promise, Hana. I'll keep you safe. Both of you. Dr. Keiko moved to the door, checking the hallway. You have maybe an hour before the court gossip reaches the king's ears. I suggest you use it. They almost made it. Daichi had moved with military efficiency, packing supplies, securing fast horses, planning a route to the border territories where vampire law was less absolute. They were in the stables, preparing to leave, when the king's guard surrounded them. Prince Daichi, the guard captain said formally. King Hiroshi requests your immediate presence in the throne room. Both of you. We were just, Daichi began. Both of you, the captain repeated. Now. They were escorted, politely but firmly, through the palace halls to the throne room. Every vampire they passed stared. The rumor had spread. Everyone knew. King Hiroshi sat on his throne, expression unreadable. He was older than Daichi by a century, and he looked like him, not in age, but in the weight of power worn like armor. Brother, he said mildly. I hear congratulations are in order. You've managed to impregnate a human translator. How, common to you? Hiroshi, please, Daichi said, stepping forward. She's innocent in this. If you're angry, direct it at me. But don't punish Hana for. Punish. Hiroshi's laugh was cold. Dear brother, why would I punish the most politically useful thing that's happened to this court in a century? Both Daichi and Hana froze. I don't understand, Daichi said slowly. Don't you? Hiroshi leaned forward, his smile sharp. A child of royal blood, carried by a human woman who has no power, no family, no protection except what I choose to give her. Do you know what that makes her, brother? It gives her leverage. Against you. Against any faction that opposes me. Against the human territories who've been growing too bold in our negotiations. You want to use her, Daichi said, his voice flat with horror. I want to use the situation, Hiroshi corrected. Miss Hana will remain here, under my protection, until the child is born. You'll continue your duties as prince. The child, when it arrives, will be raised in the court, not as a succession threat, but as a symbol of human-vampire cooperation. Everyone wins. Except Hana has no choice in this, Daichi snarled. She had a choice when she decided to be a vampire prince, Hiroshi said coldly. She made it. Now she lives with the consequences. Miss Hana, do you understand your position? Hana found her voice, though it shook. I understand that I'm a prisoner, Your Majesty. You've dressed it up with words like protection and cooperation, but I'm a prisoner nonetheless. Good, Hiroshi said. You're smarter than you look. That will make this easier. Guards escort Miss Hana to the East Wing. Comfortable quarters. Full supervision. And Prince Daichi, his gaze shifted to his brother. You're confined to the palace until I decide you've remembered your loyalty. Dismissed. As guards moved to separate them, Daichi grabbed Hana's hand one last time. I'll find a way, he whispered desperately. I'll get you out. I promise. I know, Hana whispered back, though she didn't believe it. She was a prisoner in the vampire court, carrying a child that had made her the most valuable pawn in two worlds. And that was before everything got infinitely worse. Chapter 2, The Escape and the Hunt begins. Hana spent 3 weeks as a gilded prisoner in the East Wing of the Vampire Palace. Her rooms were luxurious. Her meals were excellent. Dr. Keiko visited daily to monitor the pregnancy, which was progressing rapidly. At 4 months, Hana looked 6 months pregnant in human terms, and the baby was incredibly active. But luxury didn't change the fact that she was a prisoner. Guards stood at every door. Her movements were tracked. And worst of all, she hadn't seen Daichi since the throne room. The king had made sure of that. He asks about you constantly, Dr. Keiko said during one examination, her voice low. Prince Daichi. He's demanded to see you 17 times. The king has denied him 17 times. Why are you telling me this? Hana asked quietly. Because I've served this court for 100 years, and I've never seen the king weaponize a pregnancy before. It's cruel. And it will end badly for you, Miss Hana, whether you realize it or not. Dr. Keiko's expression was grim. The king is patient. He'll wait until the baby is born, until you've served your purpose as a symbol, and then he'll dispose of me, Hana finished. I'm not naive, Doctor. I've known that since the first day. The king doesn't need me alive after the baby comes. Only during. Then you need to leave. Before the baby is born. While you still have value that might protect you during an escape. How? Hana gestured to the door. I'm constantly. There's a servant's passage, Dr. Keiko whispered, pulling out a small hand-drawn map. Behind the tapestry in your bathing room. It leads to the lower kitchens. From there, you can reach the underground passages that connect to the city. I've arranged supplies, money, travel papers, clothing. And I've sent word to Prince Daichi. He'll meet you at the north gate at midnight tonight. Why are you helping me? Hana asked, shocked. Because I delivered King Hiroshi's first child 3 centuries ago, Dr. Keiko said quietly. A daughter. Beautiful, brilliant, kind. The king deemed her too weak to rule because she wanted peace instead of conquest. He sent her into exile, and she died alone in a human province, killed by fanatics who didn't care that she'd never hurt anyone. I won't watch another innocent woman be destroyed by royal politics. Not again. She pressed the map into Hana's hands. Midnight. Don't be late. This is your only chance. Hana waited until the guards changed shifts at 11:45 p.m. Dr. Keiko had told her that was the moment when their attention would be most divided. She moved quickly through the servants' passage, her pregnant belly making the tight spaces difficult to navigate. The passage was dark, dusty, clearly unused for years. Perfect for an escape no one would anticipate. She made it to the lower kitchens. Through the underground passages. Up into the city streets, where the smell of human cooking and vampire establishments mixed in the unique way only the border city could manage. The north gate was visible ahead. And there, in the shadows, she saw Daichi's familiar silhouette. Hana. He pulled her into his arms the moment she reached him, careful of her pregnant belly. Thank the ancient ones you made. I've been going insane not knowing if you were safe, if the baby. We're both fine, Hana assured him, though her voice shook with relief. Dr. Keiko helped me escape. But Daichi, we need to go now. The guards will notice I'm missing within. There. A shout from behind them. The king's guard. They'd been discovered. Run. Daichi grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the gate. But as they ran, something worse happened. Human guards, border patrol from the human territories, appeared at the gate. And they weren't there to help. The contaminated woman, one shouted. The one carrying vampire corruption. She's not allowed to cross. She's with me. Daichi snarled, his vampire nature flaring. She's under royal protection. She's under arrest for treason against humanity, the human captain countered. That child she's carrying is an abomination. We have orders to either detain her or eliminate her before she spreads vampire taint to our provinces. They were surrounded. Vampire guards behind them, human guards ahead, and Hana trapped in the middle with Daichi desperately trying to shield her. Stand down, a cold voice commanded. King Hiroshi appeared, moving through his guards like a shadow given form. His expression was furious. Miss Hana is under my protection, he said to the human guards. If you attempt to detain or harm her, it will be considered an act of war against the vampire court. And if you keep her imprisoned, it will be considered an act of war against humanity, the human captain shot back. That woman is a human citizen who's been corrupted by vampire influence. We demand her return for proper cleansing. Cleansing? Hana whispered, horrified. They want to kill the baby. They want to kill you both, Daichi said grimly, pulling her behind him. Hiroshi, please. Whatever our differences, she's carrying your nephew or niece. Doesn't that matter? What matters, Hiroshi said coldly, is that my brother has committed treason by trying to flee with valuable royal property. Miss Hana, you will return to the palace. Now. I'm not property, Hana said, finding her voice despite her terror. I'm a person. Carrying a child. And I'm not going back to be your political pawn. Then you'll die here, Hiroshi said simply. Because neither side will let you leave. The humans want you dead. I want you contained. And you, dear girl, have no power to resist either of us. She has me, Daichi said, his hand going to his sword. You'll fight your own king. Hiroshi's voice was dangerous. Your own brother. For a human woman and a child that's already cost you everything. Yes, Daichi said simply. The standoff might have ended in bloodshed, vampire against vampire, human against vampire, everyone against everyone, if not for what happened next. An old woman appeared from the crowd that had gathered to watch the commotion. She was human, ancient, with milky eyes that saw more than sight should allow. Enough. Her voice cracked like thunder despite her frail appearance. I am Oracle Grandmother Yuki of the Sacred Temple. And I claim the right of sanctuary for this woman and child under the ancient laws. Every vampire froze. Every human guard went pale. The ancient laws haven't been invoked in 2 centuries, Hiroshi said slowly. Because they haven't been needed in 2 centuries, Grandmother Yuki countered. She moved through the crowd with surprising speed, positioning herself between Hana and everyone else. Her milky eyes fixed on the pregnant woman. I know what you are, child. What your blood carries. And these fools, she gestured at both the vampire king and the human guards. Don't deserve you. What am I? Hana asked, confused. I'm just a translator. A human. Nothing special. You're descended from the Oracle bloodline, Grandmother Yuki said loudly enough that everyone could hear. Ancient blood. Sacred blood. The blood that once bound the treaties between our worlds. Your child isn't just a half-vampire bastard, it's a bridge between species, born of sacred lineage. Which makes it more legitimate than any heir currently in line for the vampire throne. Silence crashed over the square like a physical force. That's impossible, Hiroshi said, but his voice had lost its certainty. The Oracle bloodline died out centuries ago. Everyone knows. Everyone knows lies told to hide inconvenient truths, Grandmother Yuki interrupted. The bloodline never died. It hid. It survived in orphanages and monasteries, in translator schools and scholarly halls. And this girl, she placed a gnarled hand on Hana's shoulder, is the last living descendant. Which means the child she carries has a stronger claim to the vampire throne than your own heirs, King Hiroshi. Because Oracle blood supersedes all other bloodlines in the ancient laws. This is absurd, the human captain began. This is true. Grandmother Yuki's voice rang with power. And under the ancient laws, I claim sanctuary for Oracle blood and any child it carries. Neither vampire nor human authority can supersede that claim. She is under the protection of the sacred temple now. Any who touch her answer to forces older than your petty kingdoms. She turned her milky eyes on Hana. Come, child. You and Prince Daichi both. The temple offers sanctuary. And time to sort out this catastrophic mess. Hana looked at Daichi, who looked as shocked as she felt. Can she do this? Hana whispered. The ancient laws predate the vampire kingdoms, Daichi said slowly. If she's truly invoking sanctuary, yes. Even my brother can't override that without starting a war with every temple, monastery, and sacred site in both worlds. Then we go, Hana said, making the decision. Before anyone decides to challenge her. They moved quickly through the crowd, following Grandmother Yuki toward the sacred temple that stood at the highest point of the border city, the one place neither vampire nor human authority could legally touch them. Behind them, Hana heard King Hiroshi's furious voice, find everything there is to know about the Oracle bloodline. And find me a way to override that sanctuary claim. No one makes a fool of the vampire king. They'd escaped. For now. But Hana realized with cold certainty that she hadn't stopped being hunted. She'd just changed the game. Hana went from translator to the most hunted woman in 2 worlds, wanted by vampires for political control and by humans for carrying vampire corruption. She just discovered she's descended from the sacred Oracle bloodline, which changes everything. Have you ever had your identity or heritage completely redefine your life in ways you never expected? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how you handled sudden, massive changes to who you thought you were. Chapter 3, Sanctuary and Revelation. The sacred temple was older than memory. Built into the mountain itself, half in the vampire territories, half in the human lands. It belonged to neither world and both simultaneously. Monks and priestesses of both species lived here in careful balance, maintaining the ancient traditions that predated modern kingdoms. Grandmother Yuki led them through passages lit by eternal flames that needed no fuel, past chambers where ancient texts lined walls floor to ceiling, to a central sanctuary where the air itself felt heavy with power. "You'll be safe here," she said, gesturing to the prepared chambers. "For a time. But you need to understand what you've stumbled into, child." "I don't understand any of this," Hana said, exhausted and overwhelmed. "You said I'm descended from the Oracle bloodline. I'm an orphan. I have no family, no history, no." "You have all of those things," Grandmother Yuki interrupted gently. "You just never knew to look for them. Sit. Both of you. And I'll tell you truths that have been hidden for 3 centuries. They sat. Daichi kept one protective hand on Hana's shoulder, his other resting on her pregnant belly where their child moved restlessly. 300 years ago, Grandmother Yuki began, there was a family of oracles. Humans are born with the gift of sight, the ability to bridge worlds, the power to see truth where others saw only lies. They were neutral arbiters between vampire and human kingdoms. Their word was law because their sight was absolute. But power makes people uncomfortable. And truth makes people angry. What happened to them? Hana asked, though she suspected she knew. They were systematically eliminated. Hunted by those who didn't want their secrets revealed. Killed by factions who preferred convenient lies over inconvenient truths. Within 50 years, the Oracle family was believed extinct. Grandmother Yuki's milky eyes are fixed on Hana. But 2 children survived. A brother and sister, hidden in different orphanages, their heritage obscured, their names changed. The brother died young. The sister lived, had children of her own, never knowing what she carried in her blood. "And I'm descended from her," Hana whispered. "You are the last direct descendant. The only living oracle by blood, even if the gift itself has been dormant in your line for generations." Grandmother Yuki leaned forward. "But your child, half vampire, half oracle, may awaken that gift. May become a bridge between worlds in ways we haven't seen since the original treaties were signed. That's why you're so valuable. That's why everyone wants to control you. Or kill me," Hana added bitterly. "Don't forget the human guards who want me cleansed. Religious fanatics who fear change," Grandmother Yuki dismissed. "They don't represent all of humanity. But they are loud, and they have convinced many that vampire human children are abominations rather than possibilities." "What about vampire law?" Daichi asked. "You said the child has a stronger claim than my brother's heirs. Explain that." "The ancient laws, the treaties that formed the vampire kingdoms, were witnessed and sealed by the oracles. Part of those treaties stated that any child born of oracle blood and vampire nobility supersedes normal succession because such a child represents the original covenant between species." Grandmother Yuki pulled out an ancient scroll, its edges crumbling with age. "It's here. Clear as day. Your brother's heirs are legitimate by current law. But Miss Hana's child is legitimate by ancient law, which takes precedence." Daichi stared at the scroll, then at Hana, then at her belly. "You're saying our child could legally claim the vampire throne? Over Hiroshi's children?" "Could," Grandmother Yuki emphasized. "Not should, not must. Could. If you chose to pursue that claim. Which would, of course, start a civil war." "Wonderful," Hana said weakly. "So I'm not just hunted. I'm carrying a potential civil war." "You're carrying hope," Grandmother Yuki corrected gently. "A child that could unite worlds instead of dividing them. If they're protected. If they're raised right. If they survive." "Those are a lot of ifs," Daichi said. "Yes." Grandmother Yuki stood, her ancient bones creaking. "Which is why you need to make a choice. Stay here in sanctuary, safe but trapped, waiting for the world outside to decide your fate. Or take control of your own story. Seek allies. Build support. Prove that your child is hope, not threat. It won't be easy. But it might be the only way to ensure your family survives." "How?" Hana demanded. "I'm 4 months pregnant. I can barely walk fast, let alone run from both vampire assassins and human fanatics. And Daichi is one vampire against his own king. We're hopelessly outmatched. You're one pregnant oracle and one vampire prince, Grandmother Yuki corrected. And you have more allies than you realize. Dr. Keiko helped you escape, she's not alone in the vampire court. There are factions who resent King Hiroshi's cruelty. And in the human world, there are those who remember the old ways, who know oracle blood is sacred, not corrupted. You just have to find them. She moved to a side chamber and returned with a small wooden box. Inside were papers, seals, and a silver medallion engraved with symbols Hana didn't recognize. These will get you to the southern territories, Grandmother Yuki explained. Vampire lands under Lady Akane's rule. She's old, ancient, really. She remembers the oracle family. Remember the old treaties. If anyone will help you, it's her. And if she won't? Daichi asked. Then you die, Grandmother Yuki said bluntly. But at least you'll die trying to control your fate instead of waiting for others to decide it for you. They left the temple 3 days later, disguised as traveling merchants. Hana wore loose robes that hid her pregnancy. Daichi wore a merchant's practical clothing instead of noble finery. They had the papers Grandmother Yuki provided, a map to the southern territories, and a prayer that they'd make it before either world's hunters caught up. The journey should have taken 2 weeks. They made it 4 days before the first attack. Hana woke in their roadside camp to Daichi's urgent whisper, "Don't move. Don't make a sound. We're surrounded." She opened her eyes carefully and saw them through the trees, vampire soldiers. At least a dozen, moving through the forest with practiced silence. King Hiroshi's hunters. How did they find us? Hana breathed. Someone at the temple sold us out, Daichi said grimly. Or the king has seers of his own. Doesn't matter. We need to run. Now. They ran. Through the forest, Daichi half-carried Hana when her pregnant body couldn't keep pace. Behind them, the hunters gained ground with supernatural speed. I can't, Hana gasped, her body screaming in protest. Daichi, I can't run anymore. Then I fight, Daichi said, drawing his sword. Get behind that rock formation. Hide. If I fall, keep running. Don't stop. Promise me. I can't leave you. Promise me. His eyes were desperate. Hana, if I die, at least our child lives. Promise me you'll protect them. Please. I promise, Hana choked out, even as her heart shattered. She hid behind the rocks, one hand on her pregnant belly, watching as Daichi faced 12 vampire soldiers alone. The fight was brutal. Beautiful and terrible in the way only vampires moving at supernatural speed could be. Daichi was skilled, 3 centuries of training evident in every movement. But he was outnumbered. He killed 3 before they overwhelmed him. Hana watched him fall, sword knocked from his hand, surrounded by enemies. She bit her hand to keep from screaming, tasting her own blood. Where's the human? One soldier demanded, his boot on Daichi's chest. Gone, Daichi gasped, blood on his lips. You'll never find her. Then you're useless to us, the soldier said, raising his sword for a killing blow. Wait. Hana stepped out from the rocks, hands raised. I'm here. Let him live, and I'll come with you peacefully. No. Daichi struggled against the soldiers holding him. Hana, run. I can't, she said simply, tears streaming down her face. I can't watch you die. I can't let our child grow up knowing I chose safety over saving you. I'm sorry, Daichi. I love you too much to run. The lead soldier smiled coldly. How touching. Seize her. The king wants her alive. The prince, however. His sword began to descend. An arrow sprouted from his throat. He fell, choking on his own blood. Before anyone could react, more arrows flew from the trees, precise, deadly, taking down 5 soldiers in seconds. Figures emerged from the forest. Not more vampire soldiers. Something else. Human warriors, but not like any Hana had seen. They moved with purpose, with skill, with symbols painted on their armor that she recognized from Grandmother Yuki's medallion. Temple guards, one announced, helping Daichi to his feet. Sent by grandmother Yuki. She suspected you'd be hunted. We've been tracking you since you left Sanctuary. Why didn't you reveal yourselves earlier? Daichi demanded. Had to make sure the king's hunters didn't have backup, the guard captain, a stern woman with gray hair, explained. Now we know. And now we get you to Lady Akane's territory before more come. Can you walk? I can fight, Daichi said, though he was bleeding from multiple wounds. Save your strength. We have 2 more days of hard travel, and you'll both need every ounce of endurance you have. The hunt isn't over. It's barely begun. As they moved through the forest, protected by warriors whose existence Hana hadn't known about until hours ago, she felt the baby kick strongly, as if to remind her that this was all for their child. Every terrifying moment. Every impossible decision. Every desperate run. She was the most hunted woman in the 2 worlds. But she wasn't alone anymore. And she wasn't giving up. Chapter 4, Lady Akane's Court. The southern territories were different from the northern vampire court. Where King Hiroshi's palace was all sharp angles and intimidating power, Lady Akane's estate was elegant, almost gentle. Gardens bloomed year-round through vampire magic. The architecture blended human and vampire aesthetics seamlessly. And the people, vampire and human alike, seemed to coexist without the constant tension Hana had felt in the border city. Welcome, Lady Akane said when they were finally ushered into her presence. She was ancient, older even than King Hiroshi, Hana suspected. Her hair was pure white, but her face was unlined, ageless. Her eyes held the weight of centuries but also something softer. Wisdom. Compassion. Grandmother Yuki sent word ahead, Lady Akane continued, gesturing to them to sit. Oracle blood. Refugee lovers. Political catastrophe. You've certainly made an impression in a short time. We didn't mean to cause trouble, my lady, Hana said quickly. Trouble comes whether we mean it or not, Lady Akane replied. The question is what we do about it. Let me see you, child. All of you. Hana stood, and Lady Akane approached, placing ancient hands on her pregnant belly. She went very still, her expression transforming into wonder. Oh, she breathed. Oh, this is more than anyone realized. This child, she looked at Daichi. Your son. You're carrying a son. And his power. She shook her head in amazement. He'll be extraordinary. More vampire than human, despite the mixed blood. And the oracle gift is strong in him. I can feel it. A son, Daichi repeated, his voice breaking with emotion. We're having a son. You're having a revolution, Lady Akane corrected, but her tone was warm. This boy will change everything. If he lives. Which is, of course, a complication. King Hiroshi wants to control him, Hana said. The human fanatics want to kill him. And apparently, he has a legal claim to the vampire throne that could start a civil war. We're running out of options for how to keep him safe. Then stop running, Lady Akane said simply. Stop hiding. Stop being prey. Start being what you actually are, the mother of the future king. I'm not trying to overthrow King Hiroshi, Hana protested. I just want my child to live. Then you need to understand something about vampire succession, Lady Akane said, sitting in her chair like it was a throne. King Hiroshi is not a beloved ruler. He's feared, but not respected. Powerful, but not wise. He's made enemies in every territory, including mine. If someone with a legitimate claim challenged him, especially someone with oracle blood, someone who represents the old covenant between our worlds, many vampires would support that claim. Not out of love for you, but out of hatred for him. You're asking me to start a war, Hana said slowly. I'm asking you to end one, Lady Akane corrected. There's already a war. Between vampire and human. Between Hiroshi's loyalists and his enemies. Between the old ways and new cruelty. You're just the catalyst that could finally resolve it. One way or another. Daichi stepped forward. What are you proposing, my lady? An alliance, Lady Akane said. Between the southern territories and any other vampire lords who'd support your child's claim. between humans who remember oracle blood is sacred and vampires who are tired of Hiroshi's tyranny. We gather support, wait for the child to be born, and then present him to the Vampire Council as the legitimate heir under ancient law. If enough of us support the claim, Hiroshi will be forced to either acknowledge it or face civil war. And if he chooses war, he'll lose. Because I'll personally ensure that happens. Why? Hana asked. Why would you risk everything for us? Lady Akane's expression softened. Because I knew the original Oracle family. They saved my life once, centuries ago. I owe them a debt I can never repay. But helping their last descendant survive, ensuring their bloodline continues, that's as close as I'll get to honoring them. And beyond that. She looked at Daichi. Your brother has become a tyrant. Someone needs to stop him before he destroys everything our ancestors built. Your son might be the only one with the legitimacy to do it. And if we refuse? Daichi asked. If we just want to raise our child in peace, away from politics and succession wars. Then you run forever, Lady Akane said bluntly. Because Hiroshi will never stop hunting you. The human fanatics will never stop trying to cleanse your child. You'll spend your entire lives hiding, teaching your son to hide, watching him grow up in fear. Is that the life you want for him? Hana thought about that. I really thought about it. A life of running. Of fear. Of their son never knowing safety or home. Never understanding his own power because using it would reveal him. Never having friends or community or anything resembling a normal childhood. Or a life of fighting. Of claiming their right to exist. Of ensuring their son grew up protected not just by them, but by an entire kingdom that acknowledged his legitimacy. She looked at Daichi. Found him already looking at her. Your choice, he said quietly. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. Hana placed her hand on her pregnant belly, feeling her son move beneath her palm. Strong. Alive. Full of potential. We fight, she said. Not because we want power. But because our son deserves better than a life spent hiding. He deserves to exist openly. Proudly. Without apology. If claiming his birthright is the only way to ensure that. She met Lady Akane's ancient gaze. Then we claim it. Lady Akane smiled. Good. Then we have much to prepare. You have approximately 2 months before the child is born. In that time, we need to gather allies, prepare defenses, and make sure when your son enters this world, he does so under protection strong enough that even King Hiroshi will think twice before attacking. And if he attacks anyway? Daichi asked. Then we fight a war, Lady Akane said simply. And we win it. Because the alternative is watching your family be destroyed. And I won't allow that. Not again. Not ever again. The next 2 months were a blur of preparation, politics, and pregnancy. Lady Akane worked her ancient connections, calling in favors centuries old, gathering vampire lords who'd grown tired of King Hiroshi's rule. The temple guards contacted human communities who remembered the oracle traditions. Slowly, carefully, an alliance formed. Not everyone joined. Some vampire lords remained loyal to Hiroshi. Some human territories refused to ally with vampires at all. But enough answered the call that by the time Hana went into labor, an army stood ready to defend her son's right to exist. The birth happened during a blood moon, fitting, Hana thought distantly through the pain. Dr. Keiko had made the journey south to attend the delivery, risking her own safety to ensure the child's safe arrival. Daichi never left Hana's side. And Lady Akane stood guard outside the birthing chamber, her ancient power a shield against anyone foolish enough to attack while Hana was vulnerable. The labor was long. Intense. The baby was half vampire, fighting his way into existence with supernatural strength. But finally, after hours of pain and pushing and desperate effort, Hana heard crying. Strong, furious, absolutely healthy crying. A son, Dr. Keiko announced, placing the baby in Hana's arms. Perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and more power than any newborn I've ever felt. Your boy is extraordinary. Hana looked down at her son and felt her heart explode with love. He had Daichi's dark hair. Her nose. eyes that flickered between human brown and vampire crimson, unable to decide. And when she touched his tiny hand, he gripped her finger with surprising strength, his eyes focusing on her face with awareness no newborn should possess. "Hello, little one," she whispered. "Welcome to the world. I'm your mother." And that, she gestured to Daichi, who was crying openly. "That's your father. And we love you more than you'll ever understand. What will you name him?" Dr. Keiko asked. Hana and Daichi had discussed this for weeks. Had debated names from both their cultures, had tried to find something that represented hope and strengthen the bridge he was meant to be. "Ren," Hana said. "Like the lotus. Because he's going to bloom in impossible circumstances and be beautiful because of it, not despite it." "Ren," Daichi repeated, carefully taking his son from Hana. "Prince Ren. Heir to the vampire throne by ancient law. Son of oracle blood and vampire nobility. Our miracle." A commotion outside made everyone tense. Lady Akane burst into the room, her expression urgent. "He's here. King Hiroshi. With his entire army. He's demanding you surrender the child immediately or he'll take the southern territories by force." "How many?" Daichi asked, already standing, cradling Ren protectively. 3,000 vampire soldiers. 500 human mercenaries. More than we anticipated. More than we can fight if he's serious about conquest. Lady Akane's expression was grim. "I'm sorry. I thought we had more time." "We did," Dr. Keiko said quietly. "I sent word when the labor started. As I was ordered to." Everyone turned to stare at her. "You betrayed us." Daichi's voice was deadly quiet. "I had no choice," Dr. Keiko said, but she didn't sound apologetic. "The king threatened my family. My grandchildren. But I also sent word to someone else. Someone who might actually stop this before it becomes a bloodbath." "Who?" Hana demanded, holding her newborn son close. The answer came from the doorway. "Me." A woman stood there, vampire, elegant, with an aura of such ancient power that even Lady Akane looked young in comparison. She wore robes that predated kingdoms, and her eyes held the weight of millennia. "I am First Mother Izumi," she announced. "Original vampire. First of all, vampire lines. And I've come to end this farce before you all destroy what our ancestors built." She walked into the room, and everyone, even Lady Akane, bowed instinctively. This was power beyond politics. Power beyond kingdoms. This was the source of all vampire existence, standing in flesh before them. "Let me see the child," First Mother Izumi commanded. Daichi hesitated, but Hana nodded. He carefully passed Ren to the ancient vampire. First Mother Izumi held the baby with surprising gentleness, her expression unreadable. She studied him for a long moment, his mixed features, his fluctuating eyes, the power that radiated from his tiny body. "Oracle blood," she said finally. "I haven't felt this since the original treaties. And vampire nobility. Strong vampire nobility." She looked at Daichi. "You're King Hiroshi's brother, yes?" "Yes, First Mother," Daichi said respectfully. She turned her ancient gaze to Hana. "And you're human. Or you were. The transformation is beginning, though you don't realize it yet. Carrying a half-vampire child for 6 months has changed you. Started the turning process. You'll be a full vampire within a year, whether you choose it or not." Hana's hand went to her chest, feeling her heartbeat, slower than it should be. "Different. I didn't know. Most don't. But that's irrelevant to the current crisis." First Mother Izumi looked down at baby Ren again. "This child has a legitimate claim under ancient law. That much is indisputable. But claiming it would start a civil war that would destroy both vampire and human territories. So I'm going to offer a different solution." She walked to the window, baby Ren still in her arms, and addressed the army gathered below. "King Hiroshi." Her voice carried with supernatural force. "I am First Mother Izumi. And I declare this child, Prince Ren, to be under my personal protection. Any who touch him answer me directly. Is that understood?" From below, King Hiroshi's voice, shocked, furious, First Mother, with all respect, this is a political matter. This is a matter of ancient law, First Mother Izumi interrupted. Which I wrote. Which I sealed with the Oracle family. Which supersedes your petty kingdom politics. Prince Ren will not be used as a political pawn. He will not be eliminated to preserve your power. He will grow up under my protection, learning what it means to be both vampire and oracle. And when he's of age, if he chooses to claim the throne, he may do so with ancient law's full support. But that choice will be his. Not yours. Not mine. Hi. She turned back to the room. Until that time, I'm taking the boy. He'll be raised in the First Mother's sanctuary, where neither you, she looked at Hana and Daichi. Neither the king nor anyone else can reach him. He'll be safe. Protected. Educated. And when he's ready, you may reclaim him. But for now, he must be removed from the battlefield before you all destroy each other fighting over him. No, Hana said immediately, standing despite her exhaustion. You're not taking my son. I didn't give birth to him just to have him stolen by another vampire ruler. I'm not stealing him, First Mother Izumi said gently. I'm saving him. Look outside, child. Your lover's brother has 3,000 soldiers ready to kill everyone here and take your son by force. Lady Akane has perhaps 1,000 defenders. The math is simple. You lose. Your son dies or becomes Hiroshi's pawn. Is that what you want? I want my son, Hana choked out. And you'll have him again, First Mother Izumi promised. When he's old enough to defend himself. When the political climate has shifted. When claiming him won't result in immediate war. I'm offering him time to grow up safely while you and your lover prepare the world to accept him. It's the best solution for everyone. Except us, Daichi said bitterly. We have to give up our son. You have to prioritize his survival over your desire to parent him immediately, First Mother Izumi corrected. It's a terrible choice. But it's the only one that keeps him alive. Trust me. I've seen what happens when powerful children become political pawns. They don't survive it. Ever. Hana looked at Daichi. Saw the same agony in his eyes that was tearing her apart. Their son. Not even an hour old. And already the world wanted to take him away. But First Mother Izumi was right. If they fought, they lost. If they lost, Ren died, or worse. How long? Hana asked, her voice breaking. How long until we can have him back? 10 years, First Mother Izumi said. Give me 10 years to raise him in safety, to teach him what he needs to know, to let the political landscape shift. Then I'll return him to you. Fully trained. Fully protected. Ready to take his place in whichever world he chooses. I promise you, in my existence as First Mother, I will care for him as if he were my own. 10 years. A decade without her son. Missing his first words, his first steps, his entire childhood. But he'd be alive. We agree, Hana whispered, though it felt like dying. Take him. Keep him safe. But in 10 years, you return him to us. Promise me. I promise, First Mother Izumi said solemnly. She wrapped baby Ren in a blanket woven with protective symbols, and as she moved toward the door, Hana felt her heart shatter into pieces she wasn't sure would ever heal. Wait, she called out. First Mother Izumi paused. Hana crossed to her on shaking legs, looked down at her son one more time, memorizing every feature, every sound, every tiny movement. I love you, she whispered to Ren. Your father and I love you more than anything. We'll come for you. In 10 years. We'll come for you, and we'll build a world where you can exist without being hunted. I promise you that. I promise. Baby Ren made a small sound, his eyes focusing on his mother's face as if he understood. As if he was promising to remember her. And then First Mother Izumi was gone, taking their son to sanctuary, leaving Hana and Daichi alone in the birthing chamber with nothing but grief and the promise of 10 years before they could be a family again. Epilogue, 10 years later. The palace throne room was packed. Every vampire lord from every territory had gathered. Human dignitaries from provinces that had agreed to the new peace treaties. Temple representatives. Scholars. Warriors. The most powerful beings from both worlds, all assembled for one purpose. To witness the return of Prince Ren. Hana stood beside Daichi on the platform reserved for vampire nobility. She was fully vampire now, the transformation completed years ago, her power fully realized. She'd spent the last decade working with Lady Akane and the temple guards, building the alliances that would ensure her son's safety when he returned. She'd also spent it fighting King Hiroshi's attempts to undermine them at every turn. But slowly, carefully, they'd built something new, a coalition of vampires and humans who believed in the old ways, who remembered that oracle blood was sacred, who wanted a world where both species could coexist without constant war. It hadn't been easy. There had been assassination attempts, political sabotage, and moments where Hana had wanted to abandon it all and storm First Mother Izumi's sanctuary to reclaim her son by force. But Daichi had reminded her, they'd promised to build a world worthy of their child. That took time. Now, finally, the time has come. The great doors opened, and First Mother Izumi entered. Behind her walked a boy, no, not a boy anymore. A young man. 10 years old but appearing closer to 15 due to his vampire heritage. He had Daichi's height, his bearing, his sharp features. He had Hana's eyes, her expression, her curious intelligence. He was absolutely, heartbreakingly beautiful. Prince Ren, First Mother Izumi announced. Son of Prince Daichi and Lady Hana. Heir by ancient law. Oracle blood and vampire nobility combined. I return him to you as promised. Trained. Protected. Ready. Ren's eyes scanned the crowd, and when they found Hana and Daichi, something in his expression softened. He crossed the room, moving with vampire grace, and stopped before his parents. Mother, he said, his voice already deepening toward adulthood. Father. First Mother Izumi has told me everything. About you. About what you sacrificed to keep me safe. About the world you've been building so I could return to it. Ren, Hana whispered, tears streaming down her face. My son. You're home. I'm home, he agreed. And then, to her shock and joy, he hugged her. Actually wrapped his arms around her and held on like he'd been wanting to do this for 10 years. Thank you, he whispered. For choosing my life over your happiness. For 10 years of not giving up. For building this. Daichi joined the embrace, and for a moment, the entire throne room faded. It was just them. Just family. Reunited after a decade of separation. When they finally pulled apart, Ren turned to face the assembled crowd. I understand there's been debate about my place in this world, he said, his voice carrying with the power of an oracle combined with vampire authority. About my claim to the throne. About whether I represent hope or threat. So let me be clear. He looked directly at King Hiroshi, who sat on his throne looking older, more worn than he had 10 years ago. I have no intention of challenging King Hiroshi's rule, Ren said. Not now. Not unless he gives me reason to. My claim under ancient law is legitimate, yes. But legitimacy doesn't mean obligation. I'm not here to start a war. I'm here to bridge worlds. To prove that oracle blood and vampire nobility can coexist. To honor the treaties my ancestors sealed and my parents fought to preserve. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. However, Ren continued, his voice hardening, I will not tolerate threats to my family. My mother was hunted for carrying me. My father was considered a traitor for protecting me. That ends now. Anyone who touches my parents, who threatens them, who tries to use them as political pawns, will answer to me personally. And I promise you, his eyes flashed with power that made even the oldest vampires shift uncomfortably. I am not someone you want as an enemy. King Hiroshi stood slowly. The room went silent. You speak boldly for one so young, he said. I speak truthfully for one who spent 10 years learning from the First Mother herself, Ren countered. And I speak with the backing of every vampire lord and human province that signed the new covenant. I'm not your enemy, uncle. But I'm not your pawn either. I'm my own person. With my own power. And my own purpose. Hiroshi studied his nephew for a long moment. Then, impossibly, he smiled. You have your father's courage and your mother's intelligence, he said. And more power than either of them. You might actually be worthy of the throne someday. He paused. But not today. Today, you're still a child learning your place. So here's my decree: Prince Ren is recognized as a legitimate heir under ancient law. He holds the title. He receives the protections. But he doesn't claim the throne unless I die without issue of my own. Is that acceptable? More than acceptable, Ren said. I never wanted your throne, uncle. I just wanted my family to stop being hunted. Then we have an accord. Hiroshi actually descended from his throne and approached Ren, extending his hand. Welcome to court, nephew. Try not to overthrow me before I'm ready to retire. Ren shook his hand, and the entire room erupted in applause. It wasn't perfect. There would still be factions that resented the new covenant, that wanted the old ways of vampire superiority and human subjugation. There would still be political fights and power struggles. But for the first time in 10 years, Hana's family was together. Safe. Acknowledged. No longer hunted. She reached for Daichi's hand, and he laced his fingers through hers, his smile bright with relief and joy. We did it, he whispered. We actually did it. We survived, Hana corrected. And we built something better. For him. For us. For everyone. Ren rejoined them, standing between his parents, and Hana felt complete in a way she hadn't since the moment first Mother Izumi had taken him 10 years ago. Her son. Her mate. Her family. No longer hunted. No longer in danger. Just existing. Proudly. Openly. Without apology. And that was worth every terrifying moment, every impossible choice, every desperate run through 2 worlds that wanted her dead. She'd been hunted in 2 worlds. But she'd survived them both. And now she was standing in a throne room, watching those same worlds acknowledge her son's right to exist. Victory tasted like freedom. And freedom tasted like home. From a forbidden affair to the most hunted woman in 2 worlds to the protected mother of a prince, Hana's journey proves that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is love the wrong person and survive anyway. If this story moved your heart, smash that subscribe button right now, because this channel brings you tales where love becomes treason, where pregnancy becomes a death sentence, and where survival is the ultimate victory. Drop a comment: have you ever had to make an impossible choice between happiness now and safety later? I read every single one. And remember, being hunted doesn't mean being defeated. It just means you're dangerous enough to matter. See you in the next story, where love defies kingdoms and survival becomes revolution.